How to sound like a natural in your speech. Now, we all want to come across as prepared and confident, but not like we're trying too much. Similarly to what Roger Federer was in tennis, he was this natural, elegant player. We want to be this natural, eloquent public speaker. And by the way, hi, I'm Luca. Yes, I'm 18, but I've also delivered speeches in front of 2,000 people just south of 50 times. I've won public speaking competitions and received standing ovations. So in today's video, I'm going to be speaking about a compliment I got, which I love. And after many of my speeches, people came to me and they said, Luca, how much did you prepare for that speech? Did you make that joke up on the spot? It sounded like you were almost, catching your feet before you as you were running, right? Like you're kind of like, if I'm delivering a speech, I'll be like running like this and I'm just about to fall, but my feet are catching me just before I fall. It's almost like I'm speaking on the spot and my words are just catching me right before I fall. And that what this creates is it makes this really natural, it almost makes me come across as I'm just naturally charming. I'm just naturally good at telling these jokes. I'm just naturally so good at public speaking that I can recover after making a mistake, after an interruption, after something so big that would have thrown so many off. But I hate to break it to you, to them, to me, I'm not this natural gifted speaker. Firstly, it took some practice, but also it came with preparation. So here's how to prepare to appear as a natural. So the first, I have a few bullet points here on my laptop to guide me. And there's a few bullet points here. So the first thing we want to focus on, or to try and recreate in our speech, is a thinking pause. Or a pause or stare. And what that would look like is just before we say a point, we almost want to look up into the sky to act as if we're thinking, as if we're looking, as if we're searching for the answer. And when we get it, when we find it, then we take our attention up from the ether, from the air, and we bring it back down to the audience. And I used it there, I don't know if you noticed, but what it does is, firstly, it emphasizes that, hey, we're thinking. And that secondly, we don't have everything memorized, or at least it doesn't appear like we have everything memorized to a T. There's still some space for us to be a human, and that speaks, volumes to our audience, because it allows them to see a part of us which isn't just, what's it called, an anchor on the news, and they have the screen behind the camera and they just read it down. Hi, I'm your host, Mike Tyson, and today I'll be telling you the weather is sunny down in Philadelphia or whatever. It creates this almost like a break in the pattern, and also the pause in our words, especially if we're just speaking normally conversationally, and out of nowhere there's this long pause. People are going to look, lean in. What is he thinking about? What follows? Does that make sense? What does he realize? What answer is he looking for? So you might know exactly what's coming. You might have the word, all right? So if I'm describing something, it was a sunny, it was a sunny, it was a hot, and it was a cloudless day. You might have had all three adjectives memorized in your speech, but we paused on the third one. So even if we knew what we were going to say, we want to pause, act like we're thinking just before we say it. All right. Think a little before saying it, because it gets audience to listen a little more, and you appear like you're digging deep into stored memory of knowledge. Oh yeah, that's a very good point. because it makes us appear also more knowledgeable. Is that how you spell knowledgeable? Who cares? What it does is it's almost like when we are explaining something now, maybe a bit more scientific or a bit more sophisticated. It's not just, oh, it was a sunny, what was it? It was a sunny, jovial, and cloudless day. All right. It's not just adjectives, description, and creating imagery. Maybe now it's more of an explanation, a bit more concrete, factual information here. This can make us come across as far more knowledgeable in that certain specific thing we're explaining, because what it does is it makes it almost appear like we blank for a brief, momentarily, for a brief second. But then we're kind of digging deep in our knowledge archive, this memory bank of everything we know, and we can just find it and access it when we need it. So with public speaking, if you want to get better, there's three components you need to focus on. Firstly, the words you say, the structure you use, the Roman rhetoric that is used to tie all your words together. Secondly, your body language, how you carry yourself, the way you open, what you do with your hands, the way your shoulders are relaxed, the distance between your shoulder and the earlobe, body language. And thirdly, it is, I kind of messed up the execution there, but thirdly, it's storytelling. Because it makes me appear like I almost blanked for a second. I almost forgot what it was. I had to think what the third point was. But because I have this stored information, this memory bank, all this knowledge, this wisdom which I have acquired, not just memorization, short-term cramming for a test, but genuine knowledge in a specific topic, which I can access whenever I want, I can kind of blank like that. But because I know this topic so well, I can always just find the answer. What was the third point again? Storytelling. Does that make sense? So I hope we can move on. Add a little pause before you think and look up into the sky as if you're actually looking for the answer, even if you know it. All right, the second one, or I guess this could be another example, is I had a speech, valedictorian speech, whatever it's called, and I was thanking my friends. And the way I knew exactly what names I was going to mention, which friends I was going to thank. I knew it. It was something I sat down and thought about. But the way I did it was I made it come across as very natural, on the spot, spontaneous, as if, it was such almost like an Oscar speech, and they don't know exactly if they're going to win or not. So they go up and they just say, I want to thank God, I want to thank my mama, I want to thank, everyone in the team, Donnie, yeah, I want to thank Donnie, I want to thank me too, for the countless nights of grinding. I want to thank the producers. I want to thank my home, you know what I mean? They're almost just thinking on the spot, everyone they want to thank. And that's what I was trying to replicate here, this natural, on the spot spontaneity. It was almost like so much overwhelm and this flood of emotion that, I was kind of just thinking on the spot. So what I did was, I knew it would be Adam, George, Matthew. These are just basic names. I want to thank my friends, everyone really, Adam, George, Matthew, Michael, Reese, Sebastian, Ryan, Marnus, everyone really. You guys are what have kept me sane, the lunch breaks, the blah, 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 the banter, the X, Y, and Z. I knew exactly what names I was mentioning, but I made it almost appear like I was thinking, I want to thank my friends, my really good friends, Sebastian, Reese, Adam, everyone that sits with me at break. Come on, Marnus, like everyone. Come on, you guys are the best. That's what I was trying to replicate, and it worked quite well, because if someone didn't get a mention, it's almost like, oh, I didn't think of you, bro. My bad. It was on the spot. But then if people do hear their name, it's almost like, oh, he remembered me, like in the moment. That means it's more important, right? Does that make sense? So that's what you want to try and recreate there. Almost prepared spontaneity. Spontaneity. Is that how you spell it? Let's hope so. And then we move over into another point, which is purposeful mistakes. And guys, what you have to realize is that this doesn't sound cool. Who really prepares for mistakes? Who prepares to act like they're thinking? Who wants to make it look like they're natural? You don't have to do this, but it's only to your benefit. Right? It would be cool if you were a natural. It would be cool if we just looked like Roger Federer when we play tennis. But we don't. And this is the next best thing we have. This is our best shot, our best option, which I'm bringing to the table. And I've applied it, I've used it, and it's worked for me. It's really benefited my speeches and me as a speaker. It's helped me come across as more charming, more likable, more naturally eloquent, even though I'm not necessarily. I've just prepared a bit differently in a slightly more unorthodox way. So yeah, I agree. It would be cool if I was just naturally Shakespeare, but I'm not. So the next best thing we can do is prepare in this manner. So by purposeful mistakes, what I mean is delivering a joke, but having a plan B in case it doesn't land, or saying a joke which you know won't land, but making it appear like you want it to land. So, and then following it up when people don't laugh as hard with, ooh, tough crowd, you know, or a little minor joke like that. I once had to say an impromptu speech in class in a classroom to like juniors in my juniors in school, and I had like 30 seconds to prepare. And what I did was I spent a bit of time thinking of the joke in the way it would open up the speech, just to get some giggles going, and just to break a pattern really quickly. And I said this lame joke like, it had to be on growing up or something, choosing a profession, and it was just like, you know, who wants to be growing up, you only really had three options. It was being a doctor, a lawyer, or disappointment to your parents. Haha. Oh, tough crowd, you know? And that actually got more giggles than the joke itself. All right? So it's almost like a humorous plan B, a funny plan B. And that's quite effective because it's very, if you can create humor in a lack of humor, right? You say a joke, doesn't necessarily land, lack of humor. If you can make it that funny, that just makes you appear as even more magnificent. How do you do that? It's like if you can score a goal in football without necessarily having a clear goal scoring opportunity, it's like, wow, you're brilliant. If you can create humor without necessarily having a humor creating opportunity, wow, you're brilliant. Does that make sense? Now, just to save time, I'm going to move quite quickly here. We move on to our third point. All right, and that is saying the wrong word on purpose. I guess that could be a purposeful mistake again. Wrong word on purpose. And what I mean by that is I had a speech where I was thanking a teacher, or no, I was thanking a friend, and I was delivering a little story on how we met. It was a certain teacher's classroom, and I was saying when we weren't pushing her buttons, we were doing X, Y, and Z. All right? Little humor there. But because the word push sounds a lot like the word puss, like a private part, excuse my French, I said the word puss. When we weren't pushing her button, pushing her buttons, please. pushing. Does that make sense? So I said the wrong word intentionally, and that immediately broke a pattern. That immediately made the whole audience laugh. That made immediately everyone think, oopsies, that's gonna suck. And a mistake like that would be very embarrassing to many people. It would throw many people off. It would make many people, it would startle them. It would ruin the speech. It was, oh no, pushing, guys, please, pushing her buttons. We don't care what we say. It's funny. And we can just brush over that little mistake because we prepared for it. That mistake would ruin so many speakers if they made it. But when we make it, and people know that, they know a mistake like that, it completely throws someone off. But we're able to take a mistake like that and just keep speaking and just move on, move past it as if it didn't happen. Now, are we some eloquent, master level, Roger Federer-esque public speakers who can just naturally breeze over something like that? Or B, did we prepare for a mistake like that? All right. So that was an intentional mispronunciation of the word. All right. And I used it to my advantage. Firstly, to get a giggle. Secondly, that did break patterns. Everyone who was sleeping in the speech maybe, stood up or sat up in their seat with a straighter back. Why is everyone laughing? Oh, did he just seriously say that word? Now everyone's engaged again. It was only to the benefit of me and to the benefit of the speech. And I guess to the audience, because now they can listen to my amazing rhetoric once more. Does that make sense? So definitely consider that in your next speech. And it just makes us look better because we can simply breeze past a mistake like that because we prepared for it. And the fourth one, which I really like, is giggle before the joke. And what I mean by giggle before the joke is before you say a joke, the funny part, the punchline, the knockout, the uppercut, giggle to yourself before sharing it. And what this does is it gets the audience not only to lean forward and engage them further and make them think, well, why is he laughing? What's he about to say? But I want to laugh too. What's the joke, bro? What's the funny part? So they lean in, and you build up their curiosity, and you appear as a bit more captivating. But also, what this giggle does is it's a very natural, almost too natural of a cue or a gesture, because especially when you giggle and you look down, it's a bit weird now when it's just me and a camera in a room alone, but it's a natural gesture. And what it does is it makes it almost look, guys, this is a really funny joke and I'm about to share it with you, but I can barely keep it in. Does that make sense? And the fact that we're looking down, I'm just breaking down the psychology here. If we're looking down, it almost appears as a bit more shy. Please don't, no, please. I'm full, no, please. It's almost like minor embarrassment or minor, discount. I know I shouldn't be laughing. I know I shouldn't be full on Christmas Eve. Because I'm at, the feast. But please, I can't. No, please, it's a really funny joke. So we're looking down. It's almost a bit, what's the word? Vulnerable, like, hey, I know. So that makes it look like we're messing up. It's almost this childlike persona, shining through. It's almost childlike or boyish or cutesy and charming. All right, so that makes us come across as naturally more charming, naturally more childlike, but the good kind, And it also makes people wonder what the joke is. What's so funny? Tell us, bro. You're like, what are you laughing at me, or what's the joke here? You know. So those are two really strong benefits, which should probably motivate you to start using giggles before you speak. I just want to check my. Okay, this makes the joke funnier because it increases the time before punchline. Audience leans in and want to hear what comes next. They anticipate humor because you're already laughing, lol. Makes you look charmingly childish and natural. That is all true. And these are the 4 points to make you come across as a bit more of a natural when you speak. Now, once again, I'm sorry. We're not all Roger Federer. I am not, and I hope you are, but if you know you're not, then consider using these things, all right? If you don't know who Roger Federer is, or you know what that tennis analogy means, I guess I would have lost you by now. You would have clicked off the video. But hey, what I want you to do now with this video, if you want, if you can, if you care to listen, take one of these things, not everything. Don't go try and implement everything at once, but just take one of these little tips and go and implement it the next time you speak. The next time you share a joke, just giggle a bit. You know, the next time you want to say something, think a bit in the sky. Or if you have a word that sounds like I'm playing hockey and I miss the hockey puck, whatever it's called, but you say the F word, maybe consider that, you know. Just try create a bit of humor, try break patterns, try implementing one of these little natural cues, even if it's prepared. So let me know how it goes and check the link in the description. Peace out.